Salmonella, since it's everywhere, or all the other foodborne pathogens, they are abundant in the environment. So when you have the birds exposed to this outdoor environment, you are exposing them to a higher risk, bacterial-wise, right, or the foodborne pathogen-wise. While if you raise them in a confined environment, like in a chicken house, that environment is much easier to manage. You can sanitize the environment. You can do a lot of interventions within that confined area, as compared to having the birds walk everywhere outdoor.
Welcome to the Poultry Podcast Show. Today, I am here with Dr. Lin Walker. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
I'm really excited to talk to you about food safety, especially because the summer grilling season is upon us. Grilled chicken breast, grilled chicken thigh, amazing on the grill. We can talk about food safety and handling of poultry products here in a second. But first, I want to know, how did you get into the poultry industry and what drew you to chickens?
Sure, absolutely. So I did all my education actually in food science, but specialized in food safety. So I consider myself a food scientist. And the reason they draw me into poultry is, poultry is one of the food commodities. And during my PhD research, even though my dissertation was about beef, because I graduated from the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, which, as you know, it's a cattle state. But we also had a lot of chickens. We had a lot of egg products as well. So did some research on chicken and eggs. And then there is an opportunity from NC State showed up. My PhD advisor, at that time, he is already in the poultry industry, field as well. And he told me, this is a great opportunity. So why don't you apply? And I tried. I guess I just really fortunate to being here. This is a great field. I enjoy working with poultry people. They are definitely, I would say, very different from the traditional food industry I work with, because they are more like a downstream. At that time, we didn't deal with any products until they really kind of already turned into food. But here at the Department of Poultry Science, I work with a lot of colleagues and industry people who are at the front line, who are raising poultry, right, chicken or turkeys. And so it's kind of also a learning curve for me as well.
Yeah. So what drew you into food safety? I mean, everybody kind of has a reason, an attraction as far as the field they go into. But I mean, are you just obsessed with bacteria? Are you hoping, some people just love bacteria and they're like, any way I can work and study them is great. But other people are honestly just trying to make sure our food sources are safe. So what's your angle?
So I consider myself a foodie. I love food.
Yeah.
and I love my biology, just overall. Since I was in middle school, high school, I was always interested in biology. So, food and biology kind of, when you mix it together, it's just a kind of by opportunity. And I grew up in China. So in China, there are a lot of food safety problems. And so I figure, there will be a good opportunities for later on jobs or careers. And that's why I chose food safety as my major at the China Agricultural University in Beijing. So I spent 4 years studying there, and then 2 years on my master to continue on food safety. So at that time, I explored some high pressure processing to extend the shelf life and the food safety of some vegetable, but not necessarily in meat. So I started to work in meat really when I started my PhD at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. So at that time, I started to work with all sorts of meat, red meat, poultry meat, as well as egg products. So kind of, but But again, since my bachelor, my major has always been on food safety, and I'm really passionate about food safety. I feel like this is my mission to help the overall general public, to have safe food.
Poultry Star from DSM Firmenich is a poultry-specific product that combines the benefits of probiotics and prebiotics to enhance gut health. The probiotic strains in Poultry Star are isolated from healthy birds, not soil, ensuring excellent adaptability. The prebiotics support the growth of beneficial bacteria, creating a balanced gut environment. Poultry Star is ideal for use during key stress periods, after antibiotic treatments, and when transitioning between feeds. With over 20 years on the market, it's a proven way to boost your bird's health and performance. Learn more at dsm-firmenich.com/poultrystar.
So can you kind of give us a big picture about your thoughts about food safety and poultry products, so eggs and meat? Like, what are the big ideas? What are the big misconceptions? Like, what is the big message that you want to talk about as far as poultry food safety goes?
Myself, a lot of my family members, friends, they will ask, oh, are those organic foods better or healthier or safer, than the conventional food? And because there are so many people approaching me ask this, and then I feel like this could be a good topic to start it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the, I would say, myths people think. So I keep talking to people. Well, first of all, we kind of have to know what is organic, right? So the organic foods, they, by definition, it means you are not allowed to use any synthetic chemicals, right, in this growing or the production of the food. For chicken, then it means the chicken cannot be raised with feed with any synthetic chemicals, and even their environment, their beddings, everything has to comply with the organic definition. And I know you are in this poultry nutrition management, so you probably can give a better definition on this. So overall, free of synthetic chemicals, that's a really big thing for organic. But when we look into food safety, I think we have to kind of dissect this into multiple angles. So food safety. In this country, there are a lot of food safety problems are caused by foodborne pathogens. In poultry, mainly from Salmonella, Campylobacter, right? Those kind of foodborne pathogens. So they are bacteria. But from the other angle, when you look into safety, it's also chemical, right? Is there any drug residues? And when we say in chicken, in poultry, could be, the antibiotics that we gave to the birds, right? While we raise them. And also heavy metals or some other environmental contaminants. Because nowadays we live in this world with so many environmental contaminants. That's maybe we're not even aware of. So chemicals, live organisms, food safety is really comprehensive, very complex system. It's not just one thing. It's not just Salmonella, or it's not just the antibiotics. So now, since we have dissected this into two portions, and then we'll dive into this bacteria first, or foodborne pathogens. As we mentioned, the top foodborne pathogens in poultry, they are Salmonella and Campylobacter. Salmonella is regulated by USDA. So the poultry industry is obligated to reduce Salmonella. That's their mission. They have to do this to comply with the food safety regulation. So Salmonella, as we know, is just, they are everywhere. They naturally exist in the bird. That's the environment they live in. So when we say organic, okay, so organic chicken, I think by definition, they have to have some outdoor access, right? Yeah, so they have to have outdoor access, which means they can go out for a little bit or whenever they want outside. So Salmonella, since it's everywhere, or all the other foodborne pathogens, they are abundant in the environment. So when you have the birds exposed to this outdoor environment, you are exposing them to a higher risk, bacterial-wise, right, or the foodborne pathogen-wise. While if you raise them in a confined environment, like in a chicken house, that environment is much easier to manage. You can sanitize the environment. You can do a lot of interventions within that confined area, as compared to having the birds walk everywhere outdoor. That's kind of a little bit out of the control, right? So, but if you look at the literature to say, well, then which the birds raised on which systems, conventional versus outdoor, which one is safer microbiological wise? Actually, there are very mixed results. Some study will say yes, the organic chicken or the chicken has outdoor access, or free range chicken, they have less salmonella compared to the conventional. And you could just see as many studies have the opposite results. So actually last year, my team, we just did a study here at NC State do a comparison study. So we have two type of birds, Ross versus the Cecil. Cecil birds is a slow growing bird, which a lot of backyard growers like to use. They are much smaller, but much more active and more adaptive to the outdoor environment. So Ross is the most common one that we normally buy from grocery store. They are big, huge, gigantic with a lot of breast meat. So we did a comparison study. We put those two type of birds to both environments. One, they both have lived in the conventional, chicken house, and they have been put on the, we call it the silver pasture. So silver pasture is really it's kind of like a pasture, but with some woods or trees, grow on top of it. So give them some protection or shade. So the results was actually very interesting. So what we see is, if you just look at the Ross itself, the Ross raised in the silver pasture has a significantly higher number of salmonella than the Ross raised in the conventional. Exactly the same type of birds. They were from the same sources that they all hatched the Ross birds, which is a place of a different environment. They were on exactly the same diet. We give them the same diet. The only difference is the environment. The housing system is different. But then we saw this dramatic difference, salmonella-wise. So why is that? Why Ross in the outdoor or in the silver pasture has a lot more salmonella than the one in conventional? Our assumption is, we think because they are exposed to this outdoor environment, and again, as I said, the outdoor environment has exposed to all this pathogen that the grower almost have no control of. You can't sanitize your floor. It's third floor. It's in the woods, and you have the wild birds coming in. Have fecal droppings everywhere. So those are the things out of your control. So naturally, yes, they are exposed more to salmonella. So that could be one of the explanations. But if you compare the Ross bird versus Cecil birds, which the Cecil birds is, most of the organic growing industry like to use, or some other slowing growing bird. So Ross, Cecil, actually they has much less salmonella compared to Ross. And why is that? We kind of come up with some explanations. It might not be the perfect answers, but we think Ross compared to Cecil. First of all, Ross, they are gigantic, they are big, and they like to sit on the floor more than Cecil. Cecil, they're small, they run around, they are just super active, they barely sit at all. So with this sedentary behavior Ross has, so they are kind of just being exposed, their whole surface, the feathers, the skins kind of get exposed to salmonella more because salmonella is in the dirt on the floor. So that's one way of looking at it. The other way is the immune system, because the raws, they get mature within 6 weeks. But for sessile birds, we don't harvest them until 8 weeks. So they get a longer time to grow and to develop their immune system. So that's also another way we see why we think why sessile has less salmonella. And when I say it has less salmonella, is the way how we evaluate it is we actually we process the bird, we take all the feather down. But before we open up the bird, so before we take the gut out or everything, it's still a whole bird, but just without feather. And then we do this, we call it a whole carcass rinse. So basically you just dump the whole featherless bird in a big bag with some buffers, and then shake. And then whatever, the bacteria we can collect it, or salmonella we can, get collected from this rinse. Then we enumerate them. Then that's the number. So from that method, we see, okay, Ross has more salmonella than sessile. But again, just compare the environment itself, Ross in the outdoor or the silver pasture has way more salmonella than the Ross in the conventional floor. So when you look at this whole thing, I think, there is really not a black and white answer to say, well, organic has less salmonella or more salmonella. It really depends on, it's case by case. It depends on the practices, the management, a lot of by the environment and by the birds itself, by the genetics. So all those plays a factor into this food safety. And another thing, so we talk about the microbiological safety, right? Those bacteria. So now let's look into the chemical. So chemical, I will first give you an example. I visited a hobby farm somewhere around us, and they told me that the field, it was like 10 acres or something. It was huge land. It was a beautiful place. But then they had some like a free range chicken growing there. And they said they bought this land actually from the land before this. They turned it into a farm. But before this, it was a junkyard. It was a junkyard for decades. and I was like, well, if I were the consumers, I probably don't want to get any chicken from here, because just think about all those environmental contaminants that has, left on the ground. And if the birds, they are keep picking on this, it can be a nightmare. So again, not all the backyard flock or the organic farm were from a junkyard. So it really, you have to evaluate this from case by case, right? And for me, a lot of times people ask me, oh, would you just, go to the farmer's market to get those like free range or semi-organic chicken because they are healthier or safer? I probably wouldn't say no. I would say unless I really know the grower, I really know these people and know how they grow their birds, know where their farm is from, know the history of this whole thing behind it, I would be more comfortable. Otherwise, I wouldn't just say, oh, because it's a free range or because it's organic, and then I think it's safer. No, and because actually if it's organic, it means you cannot use any synthetic chemicals. A lot of time make the food harder to get rid of those pathogens. Think about that, right? So, because like I work on all sorts of food commodities, not just the poultry. A lot of, let's say, those organic vegetables. So the way you grow them, you cannot put any synthetic those chemicals, right? Fertilizers or the pesticides. Then a lot of times they actually are more prone to those problems, the health problems. And the same as chicken. You cannot give them antibiotics if the chicken get infected. And so actually a lot of time it can make things worse. It's just a way more challenging to control food safety compared to the conventional products because they cannot use those synthetic chemicals. So from all these angles, if you look at it, it's really it's a very mixed results. I mean, for people who think organic are better, I get where they're from because they were like, well, it does taste a lot better. Look at the eggs. The yolk is much more orange, or I can taste the flavor is different. I get that, probably because they are exposed to these environmental things. They can eat on all sorts of bugs, that's why they get the richer color. And because they can walk around, they are more physically active, so their muscle maybe tastes better than the conventional who is always just sit on the bedding more. But really, when you talk about food safety, well, I will give a big question mark. I don't think it's just that it will be safer than the conventional. And a lot of times, actually, I'd rather buy food from grocery store, from those known producers, those name brands, than someone else farmers market, because you really don't know like how they handle the birds, how they raise the birds, and also how they process the birds, right? Because the food for poultry, how you raise them, but how you process them. Like for the poultry industry, we have to comply with all these USDA regulations. And so they have to use a lot of interventions during processing to reduce those foodborne pathogens to an acceptable level. But like if for us very small processors, they don't have to comply with all of this. And so whatever in there, that's what you get. So it can be very tricky.
So from a salmonella standpoint, it's controlled by USDA. We have to pay attention to it. It's something we don't want in the food, especially if we have to have a recall if we know something's positive. Do you think poultry producers will ever be able to produce a salmonella-free product, or is this just going to be methods to reduce prevalence? What do you think?
That's a great question. I think it depends on if we as consumers are willing to just buy those cooked, ready-to-eat poultry products. And if you don't want to cook, you don't want to deal with raw meat or raw eggs, then yeah, you can get those pathogen-free products. As long as they didn't have the recall, then it's safe, because they have gone through this cooked process. So technically, all those bad foodborne pathogens, they have been killed. They have been cooked out. So yes, it's safe. But at least for me, I want to cook my own meal. I don't just want to use some other people's cooked food. So I will still want to get some raw meat or raw eggs. Then another option is do we accept the irradiated meat? I know a lot of time when as consumers say, what, irradiation? Forget about it. So but irradiation, is a way to sterilize the meat, and it's a very effective way. But we as consumer, a lot of time we probably don't like that. Not necessarily because it's bad, just the consumer conceptions. We don't like irradiated meat, period. So then another option comes down to, okay, pathogen free. How about the culture meat, cell culture meat?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, cell culture meat, it can be pathogen free too, because the way how they have to grow those cells, right? They have to be free of all sorts of contaminants, including those pathogens. But cell culture meat, right now, I don't think they're like a large scale available, and they can be too expensive. So if we limited all those options, then just to talk about nowadays the raw poultry that we can get from grocery store, then the answer is no. We cannot get pathogen free poultry products, at least now nowadays, but without the technology, you just never know. Maybe down in 5-10 years, maybe our kids generation, they can have this pathogen free. That's very possible, but it just at this moment, you cannot get pathogen free raw chicken products or raw poultry products. That's just because they are naturally there.
Yeah, natural carriers. Chickens are so interesting, aren't they?
They are.
So what are your best practices for consumers as far as handling and cooking eggs and meat? Like, what's your best advice for them to stay free of salmonella and all of the repercussions?
That's a great question, because a lot of times, I feel like we as consumers, we're spoiled, especially we're spoiled in this country. We're almost like live in a bubble. We want our food to be sterile, or to a point that we can do whatever to it and then don't worry about getting us sick. But we have to know, at least through my education, food safety has to be controlled from farm to table. It means everybody plays a role in this. The farmers, the processors, and the consumers. Like, how do we handle the chicken products, the poultry products? That plays a very important role, because the studies has shown that, a lot of those foodborne illness was actually from consumers' mishandling of those food products. Like, the very basic thing, we have to follow these hygiene practices. Hygiene practices are very important. Wash your hands before you touch, deal with the food, clean your counter space, clean your utensils, your chopping board. Those are very basic hygiene practices. Right. And another thing is you have to really avoid this cross-contamination. Like, okay, let me ask you a question. Do you wash your chicken, the raw chicken?
No, no, I don't.
You almost fell into the trap.
Yeah, I'll say yes if you want me to say yes, but I do not. No.
I actually, me as a consumer, I like to wash my chicken, even though I know it's a big no-no. Yeah, you are not supposed to wash your raw chicken. The reason is because the cross-contamination.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time, yes, we do wash off some, like we think a dirt or whatever off it. But most of the time, we make a bigger mess by splashing this microbiologically contaminated water everywhere into your sink, into your counter space. And so that's why my practice, whenever I touch raw eggs or raw chicken, I always just wash my hands with soap right away before I touch anything else. So again, this is all the very little habits, but to help to prevent from cross-contamination. And another thing is cook your chicken or turkey into the right temperature, which is 165 degree Fahrenheit. I believe we probably have heard a lot of this, right, from the website, from USDA, say, FDA, please cook your chicken. But still, I know a lot of people, they don't want to well cook their chicken. They want to have a little bit of tenderness in it. I always joke that I think it's because consumers' behavior in this country that give me job security.
Some people are set in their ways. I get it.
Yeah, because if everybody just cook their food, and then I will be out of a job.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Cooking. So cooking is super important. But after cooking, another thing is to chill your food or put it in the fridge right away. Don't just leave it at the counter for hours or overnight. I know some of my family relatives, they are crazy. They will leave like a cooked food over the counter for a whole night, and then the next day they started to to eat it. So, but definitely don't do that. That's a big no-no, because your food can get cross-contaminated later on after cooking. And also there are some spores like Clostridium perfringens, the spores can get activated during cooking. And then they can start to grow if you don't put them in the refrigeration condition right away. And then they will just kind of proliferate and grow to a point when you eat it, then it got you sick. So yeah, cook and chill. That's very important. Since we talk about this all about temperature, so I think for consumer, big thing is don't temperature abuse your food. Just please don't. And I feel a lot of times myself, I do the same thing. Like, you went to a grocery store, get some like a pack of chicken breasts and sitting in the back of the trunk of your car. And then you remember, oh, I think I gotta go pick up my laundry, or I gotta run some other errands. And then after that, a few hours or maybe a whole afternoon is gone. And then and sometimes maybe you totally forgot about your chicken until like before you go to bed. Oh, I still have something in my in my trunk. I better put it in the fridge. So all those things, they are temperature. You have temperature abuse in the product, right? The raw chicken and definitely is not safe.
Yeah.
So please don't do that.
I love that phrase, temperature abuse. You're 100% right.
Temperature abuse, yes. Another thing is please read the labels. So we have a colleague, Dr. Ben Chapman from another department. So they conducted some studies on consumer behaviors. They like those consumers wear goggles. It's a special type of goggle. They can basically track what they were reading on things. And so they gave the consumers a bunch of labels to read. And what they found was that the consumers love to read what kind of ingredients do they have in there, the nutrition factors, how many calories, how much sodium, things like this. But then when in the label said, please cook to this temperature, they almost just glimpse over or completely ignore it. And it's just again, you have to cook your food. But nowadays, sometimes I don't blame them, because sometimes it can be very confusing. Like if you get a bag of chicken nuggets, some chicken nuggets they told you, wow, you have to cook to this temperature. But some chicken nuggets, they are already cooked. Right? You can just pop in the microwave, heat it up. But then if you buy those frozen, they look just the same. Like they are part fried and they look just like a fried. Like for us, it's very hard to tell, are they cooked or are they not cooked? So again, that's why we have to read the labels.
Every poultry farmer worries about avian influenza. American Air Filter, with advanced filter technology to help keep barns safe from airborne disease, is teaming with J&D Manufacturing's ventilation experts, giving you more than just clean airflow. You're getting peace of mind. Together, American Air Filter and J&D help provide stronger protection, cleaner air, and healthier flocks. When every bird counts, count on your team of experts at J&D and American Air Filter. Learn more at jdaaf.com.
It's really important. So from a consumer standpoint, temperature, reading labels, proper storage, don't abuse them based on temperature, your food. Are there a few things maybe that you could mention that the producers or the processors are doing to make the consumer feel more confident about their food? Like what are the big items that producers and processors do to reduce salmonella on the front end?
Absolutely, yes. Actually, the industry is doing a lot to ensure the food safety, because they don't want their product to be unsafe. They don't want to have any food recall, because that's a really big economy loss and brand loss for them. So from the growers, who are raising the chicken, they do a lot. Like they have a biosecurity, and which means they control the access of personnel to the farms, right? They also have all this rodent control, pest control, and wild animals control. So they set all sorts of traps to make sure those non-chicken animals or insects do not get into the farm to transmit the disease. And they sanitize their farm, especially if they're conventional growers. If they are able to sanitize their housing system, housing environment, they definitely do this on regular basis. And they also have vaccines. So for Salmonella, a lot of them, they give the birds Salmonella vaccine. And it has been proven very effective of reducing Salmonella in the birds. So that really works. For Campylobacter, well, right now they don't really have any commercial vaccines yet because we are working on it. People are working on it. So hopefully one day we will have some vaccine for Campylobacter as well. And they also do a lot of feed additives, water additives, right? You are the nutrition scientist. Yeah. You probably can give me more examples of the thing that you have tested. So all sorts of very creative way, they put the probiotics, the prebiotics, essential oil, or we call the the phytogenetics, or what is it called?
Phytogenics. Yeah, you're
phytogenics. Right. Yeah. Those are all sorts of things that they add in organic acids, right? Those are things they have shown that it works. So that's also the way they use to reduce those pathogens. And what else? Let me think. Litter management, right? That's a really big thing because we mentioned the Ross, they love to sit on the litter. So you want to make sure your litter is dry litter, is well ventilated, so they don't kind of, get reinfected by the pathogens that's already in the litter. We add a lot of acidifiers like PLT in the litter to help to control the moisture, control the ammonia, but also can reduce those pathogens as well. So that's in the grower side. And then in the processor side, they have a way bigger burden or pressure than the grower because they are the one directly regulated by USDA, FSS. They have this legal consequence. And if they don't meet the regulation, their plant will be shut down immediately. So they do a lot. They use a lot of antimicrobials and some other interventions put in the plant. Like, let's see, we can go over this from step to step if we have time. So the moment when the birds get into the processing plant, they will go through this scalder, right, to lose the feathers. So the scalder nowadays they call this the multi-stage counterflow scalder. So the water is flowing from one end to the other end, and the birds is going this way. So that the dirt or the microorganisms, they will be kind of washed off or not to cross-contaminate the following. So they do this counterflow. And the evisceration, that's a very big monitoring point for the USDA. And by regulation, it's zero fecal tolerance. It means they cannot visibly see any fecal contaminants on the birds, on the carcasses at all. And if the inspectors, they see the fecal contaminant, then you have to pull that bird out of the line and to do this washing and sanitizing to make sure that has been completely removed before you can put the bird back. Right. And after evisceration, which they take the whole gut out, then they do this called inside and outside bird wash, which they have those spray nozzles with antimicrobials in it. So it's not just the water itself, but the water with antimicrobial. So it will spray the birds from outside, from the inside, complete to spray. Because during, to make sure we kind of wash off or to decontaminate those potential pathogens in it. And chilling. So chilling, that's a really big point to control food safety, especially for water chilling. Like most of the birds processed in the U.S., they are still water chilled birds. We have some air chilling plants, but not much. So most of them, they have to go through this big chilling tank, and they have to stay there or go through multi-stages for like an hour, or sometimes can be longer. And in this big tank, I call it a swimming pool. It's really huge. It's like a swimming pool. They have a lot of those antimicrobials, in it to kill, like, let's say PAA, proactic acid, to reduce Salmonella and Campylobacter, and also other bacteria as well, to extend the shelf life. By the very end, when the birds are out of this chilling tank, when they are, packaged as a whole bird or for further processing to cut up, they can meet this regulation standard. Because by regulation, that's the sampling point where they have to measure how much Salmonella they have in there. And they are only allowed a certain percentage. If they say, by how many birds, let's say if they take 52 birds, and I believe only 9.6% of that 52 birds can be allowed to be Salmonella positive. So if it's you have more positive than that, then you are facing some consequence from the from USDA. So so the industry, they are doing a lot, and even in the follow, cut up all those things, they continue to have these spraying nozzles and have their dipping tanks with those antimicrobial in it to continuously reduce the pathogens. And they are also looking for all sorts of other innovations, which is part of my research interest. Let's say the high pressure processing. They use EI water, electrolyzed, ionized water, and some other like ozone, all sorts of very creative ways, UV light, try to reduce those pathogens. So they are doing a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
The consumer should feel that they are taken care of. But at the meanwhile, we don't want to take it granted or just think, okay, they have done so much that my food is safe. I can do whatever to it, and it won't get me sick. Again, we still play a role in this.
Yeah. So to kind of summarize, I guess, from a microbiologist standpoint, what is the most important or the most key part of ensuring food safety? Is it temperature abuse? I feel like that was a...
That's definitely a really big thing, especially cooking. If you could just well cooked your food, then a lot of this microbiological food safety problem will be solved.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But again, I don't think there's any silver bullet that to take care of this just with one effort. Again, it has to be from farm to table. Everybody plays a role in this. Everybody is responsible for. So we really have to, do everything that we could, especially we are dealing with this raw product. Keep this in mind. I think for us as a consumer, very important thing is to have this mindset that I'm dealing with this raw meat or raw eggs. It's potentially has this pathogens in it. And I gotta be very careful to deal with this. I have to cook it. To have this mindset, I think that's very important.
It's time for our famous three.
Feed formulation software is stuck in the past. Most tools haven't evolved beyond basic least cost optimization. A Diet Forge changes that. It's an AI-powered platform with nonlinear ingredient modeling for enzymes and additives, cost per gain and maximum profit optimization, and real-time collaboration like Google Docs for nutrition. Every recommendation is grounded in world-class research, built for modern nutritionists who need more than legacy desktop software can deliver. Work seamlessly with your team and optimize the way modern operations demand. Try dietforge.ai free today. Feed formulation, finally modernized.
Well, before we wrap up our chat today, I want to ask you the three questions that we asked all of the guests. And the first one is do you have a favorite poultry resource that you use in your work?
Sure. So I grabbed this book. So this is for the entry level. Anybody who is interested in poultry science, I think this is a great book. for entry level. And for me, I do use a Google Scholar a lot, to find those most updated literature in the related field. That's a really good source. And sometimes I ask ChatGPT to kind of give me some different opinions to just to open up my thought a little bit. So I think nowadays with AI, we just have to kind of utilize it, right?
Do you have a book or podcast or other non-work related media that you've been reading lately, or a favorite book that you might want to reference?
Sure. I do. I listen to a lot of audiobooks kind of on my way commute. So I'm into those psychology books, kind of. So one of the most recent one I think it's worth sharing is called "Awaken Your Genius." Yeah, by Azo Vera. "Awaken Your Genius." Yeah, that's a book kind of just ask us to rethink ourselves. To rethink our situation and to form this creativity. I think it would be a very good book for us to learn.
Yeah, I love hearing people's recent book recommendations because it helps me think of good ideas too for my future reading.
Yeah, highly recommend that one.
Yeah. So the last question I'll ask you is, what is your best advice to be successful in the poultry industry?
Well, again, I don't think I live for that long to share some wisdom. Yeah, but I will say passion and dedication. Like for myself, I'm very passionate about food safety, and I'm dedicating to this work. I think that's very important because you want to do something that you really enjoy and you feel great responsibility and you feel like you are helping the community, you are helping the world. That gives more meanings to life overall. It's just it can improve our own personal happiness. And then I can also use my mentor's thing. Like he told me at the very early on that the success for your career or for your life overall is to be a good human being. I think that's very true. To be a good human being. Yeah. So that's the little bit of wisdom I can share with everybody.
I think that's great wisdom, and you can be wise beyond your years. So,
and my wisdom is still growing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today about food safety. I hope the listeners have picked up a few key things maybe to think about as far as the industry itself and their efforts, and also what they can do themselves to make sure they're not the broken link in the chain. Nobody likes the effects of Salmonella or Campylobacter. I mean, I won't mention what they are, but nobody likes them. So,
Yep.
Well, again, thank you for having a chat with me today, and thank you everybody for listening. If you like this episode, give it a like and share it with your friends. We love new listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.